Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Carvajal. I'm a transportation planning manager with Metro, and I manage the day-to-day implementation of the Union Station Master Plan. What I thought we could do today is first start off with a broad overview of the Union Station Master Plan program, and then launch into some of the implementation activities that we've initiated in the last year. So for some context, the Union Station Master Plan encompasses the 47 acres that are owned by Metro. We acquired Union Station in 2011, and shortly thereafter were directed by our board of directors to initiate the master plan. The property in purple is the Metropolitan Water District. We don't own that. The property in red are the Mosaic apartment buildings. We don't own those either. And the property in green is First 5LA, which we also do not own. As part of this master planning process, we made it very clear that we would not be acquiring additional properties unless that acquisition served a direct transit purpose. So some related projects I'd like to highlight are identified on this slide. We have the linkages study, which we now call the Connect Us Action Plan. And the Connect Us Action Plan is a public improvement plan that prioritizes pedestrian and bicyclist connections to and from Los Angeles Union Station and the First and Central Regional Connector Station. So the red hashed area is the study area, and the green lines represent corridors that are identified in the Connect Us Action Plan. We then have the SCRIP, or the Southern California Regional Interconnector Project. And what the SCRIP project will do is that it will transform Union Station from a stub-in station to a run-through station. So if you take Metrolink or Amtrak, train comes in, it backs out. What SCRIP will do is take up to 6 tracks over the 101 and connect with the tracks adjacent to the LA River. Now this could increase capacity at Union Station by about 40 to 50%. Significant project in coordinating with the master plan. We then have improved wayfinding. If you've made your way throughout the station, hopefully you've seen this improved wayfinding. If you go to the parking lot or the parking structure, you'll see improved signage as well. And the Union Station Master Plan has initiated the LEED and decertification process. So we will be the first transit station in the country to pursue LEED and decertification. The program goals of the master plan focus on first and foremost transit optimization. So this is critical. We are a transportation agency. This is a transportation hub. This is first and foremost. And the goal is really to make Union Station function to meet current and future needs. We then have destination, making Union Station a great place. And this is something we think we can achieve through our development program. And finally, connectivity, improving how people get around within the station, as well as how the station connects to surrounding neighborhoods. So for transit optimization, the master plan includes 3 major transit improvements. The first is a new expanded multimodal passenger concourse area. And this is shown in the east-west configuration in blue. We then have the relocation of the Patsaurus Bus Plaza to the west of the rail yard, as is shown here in the north-south configuration in purple. And third is the seamless integration of high-speed rail. So this is an illustration of the concourse plan to give you a sense of orientation. We have Cesar Chavez to the north, Alameda to the west, the 101 to the south, and Vignes to the east. And essentially everything you see in the dark gray and the light blue, it's a little hard to tell with the lighting, is part of this expanded concourse area. So in this concourse area, we would have consolidated information, ticketing areas. We would also have plenty of areas for people to gather and sit down. Something that was really informed the design of the concourse is that we're a little limited on how big we could create the space. We have the rail yard overhead, we have the red line running below, so we could only go so high and so low. In addition, the design was informed with the understanding that the SCRIP project would happen. So SCRIP, again, is going to extend tracks over the freeway and connect it adjacent to the LA River, but to clear the freeway, you have to raise the rail yard. In order to raise the rail yard, you have to plan for that vertical circulation. You have to get people from the concourse below up to those platforms. You have to plan for those elevators, escalators, and stairs. And I think one key thing to note as well is the dark gray area is the back of house area. That is where all the baggage activity would take place, so you would no longer have to dodge Amtrak carts in. Here we have the relocated Patsaurus Bus Plaza. Today it's on the east side of the site. So this area here, it's access off of Vignes Street. Today, the relocation would put the Patsaurus Bus Plaza at the same level as the rail yard. So from the concourse below, you come up through the vertical circulation and access bus service. Bus service would be consolidated, local, regional, all in one location. We would no longer have pedestrian and bus conflict because people would not need to run across lanes to access the bus. You're coming again up from the concourse below. We also would have improved multimodalism by having, oh, thank you. Never had a mean smile or it's distracting. So we would also have improved multimodalism by having the bus service and the rail service adjacent to each other as opposed to separated as they are today. An important thing to note is that in order to enhance or carry out this improvement, we would have to acquire and demolish the mosaic apartment buildings that are currently located here, as we would need to put in place a bus terminal ramp to access the bus service. Another important thing to note is that this would be bus only, so we wouldn't have other vehicles using this space. All right, so the second program goal is destination. Again, making Union Station a great destination. The way that we think we can effectuate this is through our development program. So as part of the master plan, we had a market study prepared that identified the feasibility of about 3.25 million square feet of development. You can see the potential uses here: mixed use, commercial, hotel, residential. Ultimately, the final program would be dictated by the market at the time that we're ready to pursue it. That is what we identified in our market study. This is a massing example that I'm hoping you can see. I don't know if the lighting tweaks it, but essentially, pointer. You can see that we have the density on the east of the station, so this is done very intentionally to protect the historic view sheds and sightlines of the historic station. In addition, you'll note that we're not proposing any development over the rail yard, as any expansion of our transit system would happen there, and we're not going to do anything that would preclude our ability to do that. For parking, we don't need to build additional parking for the transit improvements, but would need to do so for the development program. We do not plan to build parking and hope that the development comes. The development would have to build the parking at the time that it occurs. We also want to work with city planning within the city of Los Angeles to evaluate the feasibility of reducing parking requirements on the site, because this that you see here is informed by current parking standards without any kind of reduction for Union Station as a transit hub. So the final goal is connectivity, and we looked first at improving connectivity within the station. So we looked at a series of ground level connection points and plazas and terraces throughout the site. We also looked at improved connections for bicyclists, not proposing that people would ride their bicycle throughout the station. These are just paths of travel to connect to transit service and short and long-term bicycle parking. So when looking at the perimeter improvements, the focus was really looking at the front of Union Station. So this image is taken in front of Union Station, facing west, across Alameda Street, into Los Angeles Street, and El Pueblo. Looking at that, you really don't have a sense of where you are if you're not familiar with the area. I've stood in that location and have been asked for directions to El Pueblo, which is right across the street, but you just can't see it. You have 6 travel lanes, you have disconnected crosswalks, you have shrubs and trees and palm trees blocking the view shed. So what we envision as part of our perimeter improvements is a transformation, a porous, permeable connection between Union Station and El Pueblo. As part of the master plan and the Connect Us Action Plan, we found that the connection from Union Station to El Pueblo is a critical connection. People come to Union Station, they go to El Pueblo, and from there they permeate into surrounding neighborhoods. They go to Chinatown, go to Tokyo, Civic Center. So it's critical that this connection be seamless, safe, and permeable. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here. So the next series of slides are images of what could be with the master plan. Here we have the West Court. So this is a historic station. This is Wetzel Pretzel. This is a relocated Petsaurus Bus Plaza. As you can see, we have an open space, a clear sight lines, plenty of seating area, ease of access, intuitive travel patterns for patrons. This is our concourse in one of the sunken areas, which would dip down about 4 feet. You can see splayed tracks that would bring daylight into this space. Again, I think what's really striking is that it's open, it's clear, it's easy to navigate, access transit. It's certainly an improved space. This is the East Court, so this escalator is the escalator that would take you down to the Red Line today. If you stand here, you feel like you're underground, but you're actually at street level, which is so interesting. And I didn't realize that until I made this presentation and wrote the talking points. But you're actually at street level. And by relocating Patsoris to the west of the rail yard, you have this opportunity to really redefine the east side of the station as a second significant entrance to Union Station. Here we have one of our terraces at the current location of the Mosaic apartment buildings. And here is the aerial of the master plan in its entirety. So our board approved moving the Union Station master plan from planning into implementation in October of 2014. Within this action, there were a series of implementation activities. One of the most important, which is first on the list, is the preparation of a programmatic environmental impact report. We're working on that now, and to some extent, we had to put that on hold to evaluate and strategize around two very significant related efforts. And one is the SCRIP and high-speed rail effort, and second is the Alameda District-specific plan that governs this area. So in October of 2015, the Metro Board of Directors took an action that called for the SCRIP project to change its project description, to include the concourse from the Union Station master plan as part of its project, which is significant. That means that they're going to analyze it as part of their environmental, and they're going to design up to 35% engineering. So this is very significant and requires additional coordination between the two teams. The second part of that action called for SCRIP and the Union Station master plan to accommodate for high-speed rail at Union Station. What I can say is that we are in the midst of working all of that out. We, throughout the life of the project, have coordinated very closely with high-speed rail and SCRIP, and will continue to do so, but it is critical that we coordinate on our 3 environmental documents and work this out, ensure that we're aligned and that we aren't promoting any kind of conflicts, but that's something that we are just in the middle of now. Another significant action is that we've been looking for funding. We have been able to secure some grants, which I can talk about in a few slides from here. And we're working to get the transit improvements on the ballot for consideration, as Union Station is a regional facility. And we're also working on getting these on the long-range transportation plan. So the Alameda District specific plan is the second significant item that we've been coordinating on our program EIR. The Alameda District specific plan covers the Union Station property and terminal annex. Within the specific plan, it entitled about 11 million square feet of development. It was adopted in 1996, and today we have 6 million square feet of development rights at Union Station. We have a development agreement, we have a vesting tentative tract, it's environmentally cleared, it's in place. It's a very flexible plan. It allows the sports arena over the rail yard. Needless to say, there are some disconnects between the ADP and the master plan. So we need to work very closely with the City of Los Angeles Department of City Planning to amend the specific plan. So this is something we're working on with them very closely. Some of the implementation activities that we're working on now and that were really always envisioned to be the first thing out the gate are the perimeter improvements. So we looked at the forecourt area in front of the station and Alameda Street. This gives you a more in-depth focused view. And essentially, as I mentioned before, the challenge is that it's not a very pedestrian, bike-friendly entrance. We're not looking at a first last mile improvement here. So we have the 6 travel lanes, we have the disconnected crosswalks. It's just not the type of entrance we'd like to see at Union Station. So again, what we're proposing is first a transformation of our parking lot into a new civic plaza. We're proposing an esplanade on Alameda Street, taking it from 6 lanes to 4 lanes, and reallocating that roadway to expanded esplanades in front of Union Station and in Pueblo. And we're proposing a consolidated crosswalk from Union Station's front door directly into El Pueblo. This would actually put in place a speed table, which means that when you're on the sidewalk on Alameda in front of Union Station, you don't step off the curb, you continue across. And visually, it would almost be an extension of El Pueblo's plaza directly into Union Station. We were successful in securing a $12.3 million grant from Caltrans ATP program for the Alameda Esplanade. We also have a $1 million grant from the LA County Open Space District. So those funds are going to help us design and build those improvements, but really just the Alameda component. These will be cleared as part of our program EIR. We very likely will also have to pursue SNEPA clearance because there's very likely going to be federal funding involved with that. And anticipated, if things move forward as anticipated, design in FY17 and construction in FY18. So the forecourt is another key implementation activity for the master plan. Again, today it's a parking lot. We really want to convert it into a civic plaza, and it's really part of opening up the station to surrounding communities and areas. And this is an illustration of what we envision the forecourt could be. Again, it's an open space, civic space, or seating areas. It's flexible for an array of public activities. We are in the process of procuring a sustainability consultant that would prepare a sustainability strategic plan. I think the RFP was released today. And what they would do is identify funding sources that are sustainability focused to help us advance the Union Station Master Plan program. In addition, they would develop a series of demonstration projects that we could take and use to advance and secure additional funding to effectuate this program, with a focus on the forecourt. So my last slide is the animation that shows the phase implementation. We can get it started. So we start off with the forecourt transformation from a parking lot into a new civic plaza. We have outdoor seating areas. And then we have the enhanced crossing from Union Station's front door into El Pueblo, along with the Alameda Esplanade. Lots of landscaping. I want to draw your eye here, because the next thing will be the concourse. If you look at this narrow tunnel there, that is the width of the passageway today. You can compare it to what it'll be with the concourse. Wow. So we have the concourse, the platforms, and then we have script. We are then able to take down the Mosaic apartment buildings and relocate Patsaurus to the west of the rail yard. And once we move it over, we can do some very preliminary development program, but very small scale, like a boutique hotel. So you'll see some development paths. And then once Patsaurus moves to the west, we can take down the east side and extend the concourse all the way to Vignes Street. And then put down our development program, which is most significantly on the east side, our open space network. There it goes. You'll see high-speed rail being shown on Vignes Street. That was an illustrative approach that we had included in this at the time it was done. Obviously, that's different now. But that is the Union Station Master Plan.
Wow.
So, if anyone has any questions, happy to take.
Is any of this available online, or do you have it printed out? Any of these?
I will.
I'll answer that.
But the animation is on our website, so you can view it, and it has a voiceover, so somebody far more articulate than I describes the improvements. Yes, sir?
Yeah, you quickly went over this, but I heard it, you made a note of it. Who does one talk to about doing a sports arena over the train station?
Well, I don't think we're going to be pursuing that. So that was part of the plan that was developed by Catellas, which is a developer that owned the entire site. That's certainly not something that we would be pursuing or encouraging. We really think that we need to protect the rail yard. That's where we are going to expand our transit service. And very likely the specific plan is going to change significantly to align with the Union Station Master Plan.
Could you give some idea of timeline for the different projects that you talked about, starting with Connectus, Script, and moving forward to
Sure.
the other developments?
So the Connectus Action Plan is, thank you. So the Connectus Action Plan includes about 15 different projects. They can be advanced independently of each other, but the idea was that instead of looking at piecemeal improvements, you're looking at the systemic network-wide improvements in a focused area. So the plan is done, it's available online, you can download it, it's fantastic. If anyone's interested, I can bring posters down from my office. But the way that we've looked at implementation is first, we want to work with the city of Los Angeles for them to adopt it. We're having conversations, the council member will say we decided to introduce a motion to evaluate that, but I think it's critical because when you go after grant funding, the question is this part of an adopted plan? So we think that's important, but we've still moved forward to secure funding. Our colleagues that work on Regional Connector secured an $11 million Tiger grant to do some of the improvements around First and Central. We secured $12 million to do Alameda, which is in the Union Station Master Plan, and Connect Us. So, and that's the approach. One by one, you go after the funding and execute it. We anticipate going after ATP Cycle 3 for Los Angeles Crossing, which is that crossing in front of Union Station, so we'll be pursuing that as well. But that is going to be dependent on as the projects are implemented, and that's the great thing about the plan. In terms of our improvements, I think we anticipate starting construction for our project, the Alameda improvements in 2018. Obviously, this is all contingent on our environmental and how all of that shakes out and the timeline for that. Script, oh gosh, do you know the timeline off the top of your head? I think I'd have to get back to you on that, but they are looking to, their environmental is underway. They're going to include the passenger and concourse as part of their environmental, and the idea is that it's all coordinated together. But I can give you some timelines via BART.
Two questions.
Yes.
Based on what I see here, is Los Angeles Street in effect going to be terminated at the freeway and not go through Alameda anymore?
No, Los Angeles Street, we looked at very closely as part of the master plan and Connect Us. And it's actually as part of the Connect Us action plan, we looked at a 4-phased approach to phasing a closure on Los Angeles Street, should the city and should El Pueblo find it appropriate. So the first is just closing the north leg of Los Angeles Street to do that crosswalk from Union Station, but you would still have two-way traffic on the southern leg. The second idea is you could close Los Angeles Street at Alameda completely all the way up to the freeway or the crosswalk that leads into El Pueblo. That could be a viable option because it would reduce the number of cars going into Alameda, especially where narrowing the roadway there. Another approach takes us all the way to Arcadia. So we have a conceptual drawing or plan of that. It really depends on what the city of Los Angeles wants to pursue. Our intent at this point is to look at the half closure to do that crosswalk.
Second question is the high-speed line on the east side of the thing not going to happen? They want to go into the main rail line?
They want to come to Union Station.
Yeah, I kind of thought so.
Excuse me. My question is about the plaza in front of Union Station, where there's currently a parking lot, residential plaza. And with the current homeless situation and the increase, or my observations as part of my commute pattern, increase in homeless on Arcadia and on those byways. I don't know if it's Arcadia or the other one, but on either side of the freeway, you've got one-way streets. So it's like essentially a tent, a city. And so, is your group working with the city of Los Angeles at all to address that issue? And how do you see that issue affecting this idea of a plaza? Will that become a tent city? I mean, how do you deal with that?
Well, I think, we've had those type of issues at the stations. We work very closely with the city of Los Angeles and try to effectuate humane manners in which we provide services, try to find housing, do that kind of thing. So I think that if that's an issue when we're implementing a part of the project, and if it's raised from elected officials, from community stakeholders, we're going to have to address it. We're going to have to work with the city. I don't have an answer on what the plan is today, but we have to address it and work with the necessary stakeholders, be it city and service providers, to try to figure out how to address it. But the idea is not for Union Station to become a tent city. It's meant to be an open space, a civic space, open to all, a safe space for everyone.
So you don't have any sort of continual involvement? I mean, the metro.
Well, we have a property
organization,
management company,
and
and
they're involved. The city
Oh, yes.
has a committee now.
yeah. So we exactly, that's right. We have our director of property management, who I work very closely with, that handles everything at Union Station today. So if you see all the wonderful restaurants, all the improvements, Fred Harvey, all that stuff, he does all that stuff. And he and I work very closely to make sure that the planning stuff that we're talking about is coordinated with the implementation stuff he's doing today. We also have a property management company that helps us take care of the station, and they would continue to be involved with that process. But I think, like I said, I don't have an answer on what the strategy would be, but it has to be comprehensive, humane, and coordinated with the right partners. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what's the rationale from going from 6 lanes to 4 in that area? Have you driven that area?
I walk it too. So the idea is that we did some very preliminary analysis as part of the Alameda Esplanade, and Alameda has the capacity to allow for a roadway diet. What we're going to do now as part of the program EIR is really dive into very intense analysis, looking at whether the corridor has the capacity to allow it, the kind of improvements we want to see, looking at current conditions, as well as looking at the capacity issue that could arise with the 3.25 million square foot of development. We're in it now, we're analyzing it in the program EIR, but the preliminary analysis found that there was capacity, and that was the kind of improvement folks wanted to see. It's important to note that Alameda, north of there, let me finish responding to your question. So just north of there, Alameda goes down to 2 lanes as well. So it's a continuity of that as well. Did you?
I'm representing LA Union Station Historical Society. We are in agreement with Mayor Garcetti, who stated at the meeting that he agrees that the architecture of the new section needs to be in the same Spanish Revival architecture. What I see on the screen looks like a mall in Dubai or Hong Kong. It does not look like it's from the 1930s. It does not blend. What is being done about keeping the architecture consistent with the entire process with the station?
Right. So, excuse me, it's important for me to note that this is not a final design. It's an architectural representation. It's not the final design. And as you know, Union Station is on the National Register, so we have to make sure that whatever we effectuate through design has to be sensitive and aligned with the Secretary of Interior's standards. So that has to be coordinated. It has to be done effectively. But this is not the final design by any stretch of it. Not at all. Yes. Sorry, I skipped you. I apologize.
That's okay. How does this relate to or connect with the Metro's regional connector station that's going to 2nd and Broadway, I think?
So I would say that the most important connection is that we worked very closely together on looking at public improvements in the Little Tokyo Arts District area. So at the time that we were working on the master plan, a lot of community stakeholders said, master plan is great, it's good that you're improving the station, but we can't get to you, you're remote. And we decided to take that into consideration and pursue a consultant to help us develop this action plan. At the same time, our colleagues from Regional Connector were going to do the same thing. So we worked together because it's generally the same area to effectuate, this coordinated public improvement plan that looks at prioritizing pedestrian and bicyclist connections to these significant regional transit facilities and to the surrounding communities. So that's a critical connection there.
Paul Dyson with Railpack. Unclear from the representations there, as we get old, whether there's still a passenger drop-off at the front door of the station.
Yes, there would be, a kiss, what do they call them, kiss and ride? Is that what it's called? So there, what do they call them? So there would be, you could still come in and drop folks off here, but there would be some right here in front of the station as well, kiss and ride. And we also envision that once Pat Soares moves to the west, Vignes is really going to be the significant drop-off area, but you could still do it off of Alameda.
Hi, I would like to address the question about the homelessness.
Okay.
I just went to a meeting yesterday. We're going to do a count here next week, and our deputy executive officer is involved in that. And that count will also include housing and services.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yes. So there's this Complete Streets, it's probably not the right nomenclature, grant for $50 million from the federal government. Have you heard anything about that? I mean, it's like, okay, all right.
Is it a Metro Secure grant?
No, apparently there's some sort of a process in place
To
pursue
go after, I see.
this grant, yes. So I didn't know if this was something that you guys were considering, I guess not.
I'm glad that I know. I probably will look into it for Los Angeles Street.
You can repeat the question, please?
Sir, want to repeat it so everyone can hear it? Yes.
Okay. So apparently there's a grant available for $50 million that different cities can apply for from the federal government. There will be one recipient for it, so I was just curious as to whether or not that was something that you were pursuing.
And my response is that I wasn't familiar with that particular grant, but I'm looking tomorrow morning. That would be great, because we're looking at everything and anything. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Steve Stizzle, Los Angeles News Group. Yeah, I heard that the governor's budget has $3.1 billion in cap and trade funds that are now available for transportation. I mean, is this something like this, could it qualify in reducing greenhouse gases? Could that be another funding source?
We're looking at that as well. We're really trying to be, to think outside the box and looking at the funding that we can pursue for the transit improvements, hence the sustainability strategic plan, is that we think there's this whole pot of money that we probably don't even know about. It's not our typical funding sources, and we want to be able to really position ourselves to go after those funding sources, but that's definitely one that we're looking at.
Where exactly does high-speed rail arrive and depart from?
We're still sorting that out. Yeah, I don't have anything to share about that.
Oh, yeah, hi, my name is Susan McAdams, and I worked on the red, the blue, and the green line, and I was the high-speed rail planning manager at Metro. And before I was that, I worked in Baltimore and Boston and in Washington, D.C. So rail yards are a bit of my specialty, and I wrote a report about 14 months ago called The 10 Fatal Flaws of the Union Station Master Plan. Each one of them is considered to be a showstopper by the Federal Transport Administration when you look at the granting process. And the one that the LA Times chose from that report is that when every time you talk about raising the concourse, you have to raise the level of the track bed. Well, if you look out here at the track bed right now, that track bed is tied all the way to the LA River, which is tied, you can see it, it's up on this end, so you can't see it there, but it's tied to the mainline track, which connects to San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle, New Orleans, Chicago, and every place else. So as soon as you start to raise that track right there, I'm looking at it out this window, it is the same elevation that it was when it was installed in 1933. It hasn't changed by the thickness of a dime. So you start talking about raising the roof 5 feet, you've got to raise that track 5 feet, and then you've got to raise the track 5 feet along the LA River. If you raise the track 5 feet along the LA River, you have to rebuild 10 old bridges. You have to stop right there and rethink the whole thing. There are so many things wrong with that picture, especially the high-rises on the far end corner, because that right now is over in this location, going this way, and that's the old oil processing plant. If you go down to P4 in this basement, you will see oil coming up from the basement. They had to do an incredible kind of challenging clarification of the dirt right here. There's another place right here. This is the Cesar Chavez Bridge. It was losing 100 square feet of concrete over a 2-year period between 2008 and 2009, and nobody could figure out why. And it was because of the landscaping on the side of the building. The phosphate dripped out and got into the electrical system and caused the concrete to fall. So every time you put landscaping in here, it's going to create that kind of problem underground. So you have the subway under there, and no one is acknowledging those problems, okay? If anyone would like a copy of the report, I'll send it to them. But you have got to take those things into consideration, especially where those tall buildings are shown in that drawing. You're also taking out all of Besares Plaza. There's like $5 million worth of art in that area. Where does it go?
It could be relocated somewhere else. We're working with our...
Why relocate? I mean, okay, I mean, that's not your, I know you're doing the job. I know you're here to cover up some other people's. But thank you, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yes, sir.
I noticed in the script that not all the tracks are going to be run through. So
That's right.
what tracks, I mean, what kind of trains would you be putting on what looks like the existing terminal type tracks, and what trains would you be putting on using the run through?
So very likely the run through would be those on the western side, so platforms 1, 2, 3.
Right.
But the entire rail yard would be raised so that it's all at the same level.
Okay. But what kind of, I mean, what trains would be using the west side?
That is part of what is all being discussed now.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I guess I have to ask, so taking out the mosaic apartments, approximately when does that happen? And is that activity of any concern? They're relatively new.
Right, I've lived there twice. So, The timeline for Mosaic is that Mosaic Apartments would be taken down at the time that we're able to relocate Patsaurus to the west of the rail yard. The property owner, Equity Residential, is very aware of this, and they've advised that we understand, but it's gonna cost you. That's the response. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the private side for a
Yes, sir.
moment. We've got a number of towers there, and I know a lot of the conversation has to do with getting funding to be able to do the public improvements. It seems like some of the decisions that have been made, both in terms of where to put the private and some of the things not to do, such as the sports arena, are actually limiting the potential for funding for this project. And I am specifically referring to the airspace above the train track, that there's an assumption that by building something above it, you're limiting the train tracks, and that is not the case. You can have structures 50 feet above or more and still have plenty of room for 2 levels of trains going through. All I'm saying is that don't go too far along before you involve the private sector, because you may be turning off some potentials that could really fund this project.
Thank you.
I have a question, and it might be a naive question, but can you explain to me why you want to raise the tracks 5 feet or whatever the number is, and is there any other alternatives?
So the tracks have to be raised because of the Southern California Regional Interconnector Project. So the SCRIP project is going to take tracks from Union Station. There's like pointer. Okay. So it's going to take, in this illustrative approach, we have these tracks here. Today, trains stop here and they back up to leave, right? They don't continue on. They are going to continue over the freeway and connect with the tracks adjacent to the river. To clear the freeway, you have to raise the platforms, you have to raise the tracks, otherwise you won't make it. So it's required.
Lower the freeway.
What's that? So that's why we are required to raise the tracks.
So basically, you want to clear the freeway in order to get a clearance over
To clear across and connect it adjacent to the tracks adjacent to the LA River.
Right, I'm with you.
Yeah.
So if the gentleman over here, when he said lower the freeway, is that an option? Was that looked into, or?
That's not an option that we're pursuing as part of the master plan.
Is a red line down there? Is the red line down, is that what
It might be, yeah, you're right. So the red line runs below the station, but it might be there. I don't know, but that's not the strategy or preferred approach that's being advanced. It's to go over the freeway.
There were plans to lower the freeway, and the plans do exist, but they were stopped.
By Metro Caltrans.
Okay, so there are plans, they do exist, Caltrans still has them, and they lowered the freeway part of the way, but when they got right here, they stopped. So there is a way to lower the freeway, yes. It should be an option that should be put on the table. Okay?
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
The Gold Line tracks already run over the freeway.
Yes.
And the tracks haven't been raised at Union Station, so why do the other tracks need to be raised?
The grades are different. It's heavy, like.
You want to help me out with this?
The grades are typically different for heavy rail and light rail. That could be one of the reasons.
That's what I thought.
But we can look into that further. I appreciate that. Participation is good. It's an interest. Everyone has to earn their keep, right? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What is the story with the Harvey House? I understood the last time it was discussed a year ago that they were going to open in July. And now it is a new year, and are they still pursuing it?
It's happening. I don't recall offhand when they anticipate opening, but it's still
They are making progress.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's active.
Good presentation.
Anything else?
So you said script was going to be added to the master plan for DIR. Does the script also generate traffic now?
Pardon me?
Does the script also consider generate traffic now?
So the script is its own project, and we'll be pursuing its own environmental clearance.
Yeah, but you said that it would be combined with master plan.
what is being combined is the passenger concourse. So the Union Station Master Plan Program EIR is going to evaluate the concourse, the relocated Calzores Bus Plaza, the development program, and open space network at a program level, so kind of this planning level. The stage one improvements, that's the forecourt and Alameda and Los Angeles Street, are going to be cleared at a project level. Now SCRIP has their own environmental document, and they're going to evaluate the SCRIP with the concourse at a project level. So they're diving into further detail than we would. Yes?
An environmental document was prepared for SCRIP about 5 or 6 years
Yes.
ago. So is the intent now to prepare a supplemental document, or because you're adding scope, will it be a completely new environmental document?
I don't have an answer to that at this time. Yes?
Yeah, I'd like to again comment on the east side. I know this may be.
Speak up, please.
This may be not the time to do it, but I'm hoping, my comment is really to address this information to you. In the process of planning, you must look at the plans that are there. The reason I say that is that there were about $50 million worth of foundations put in for 4 towers on the east side. You can see them in the rendering outside this room here. You would have to demolish those in order to build these towers and put new foundations in. In other words, towers were anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
And
when
John,
you-
talk about the foundations being secure, like as in a boat.
Yeah, you have a high water table, as you know, and the parking garage was built the low grade, several levels, so it's into the water. It's got, it is actually designed from an earthquake and water standpoint to float. When you breach the wall, it's like cutting a hole in a ship that's in the water, in the ocean. It's going to be exceedingly difficult to patch that up and keep it afloat, so to speak. All I'm saying, I don't want to create any negative things here. I want this project to go forward, but I feel that because the plans were lost or not looked at, that some major decisions are being made about where towers are going to go. And in fact, the tower, as you know, straddles the Metro Rail tunnel that goes right through there, and it is below the first level of parking. It isn't very deep down. So we had to span that in order to put the parking garages, so we know what the problems are. And you're emphasizing the problem by putting the tower right over the tunnel. Just thought you should know.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.